theme of International Women's Day is to be bold for change. To be bold for change. Can everybody say that with me? To be
bold for change.
And I know a lot of you are here going to school to get a degree for a certain field. And when you do that, a lot of times you take an oath to, you know, there are certain things you can't say or you can't do, and perhaps you can't when you're in that organization. I want to encourage you that as an individual, you can advocate for whatever issue it is that is important to you. And we've got to do things differently. And so I encourage all of you, come on a field trip, please. Come to Topeka. Come there. It is the people's house. You have to come there and let your voices be heard on the issues that are important to you.
I am the professor in the political science department, so I thank the women's department for inviting me to share a few issues about my research with you. I think this is a great day for WSU, and I am so glad that we are celebrating Women's International Day. My research is on Latin America. Unfortunately, we were able to kind of split some of the regions in the world according to our specialty.
Greetings everyone, my name is Chinyere Okafor, and I'm here to present African women presidents and vice presidents. My definition of president is those who have got to the top even for 1 minute. And then I will survey 11 women plus one group. One thing I want to mention is that all the women have strong academic and political experience. They are all connected to youth groups or women groups. I'll show you images of the countries and the women leaders from West Coast to Central to East and Southern Africa.
This is a map of East Asia, where you see China in purple and Japan in green. And then you have countries in between, like North Korea, South Korea, and you heard that on the news in white. And then Taiwan is an island just southeast of China. Let me talk a little bit about gender mainstreaming. Gender mainstreaming was a policy that was adopted in 1995 by the United Nations to mainstream women into more positions of political power. So mainstreaming a gender perspective is the process of assessing the implications for women and men of any planned action, including legislation, policies, or programs in all areas and at all levels. Since about 1999, the Taiwanese government has increased women's reserve seats from 10%, that's in the Constitution, to 25% in the national legislature. And also major political parties mandated that women should comprise between a quarter to a third of all electoral candidates nominated by each political party to stand for elections. So by 2016, women comprise about 38% of Taiwan's legislature, which is the highest in Asia.
This is concerning women representation in the government cabinet. Norway has a parliamentary system. The party that gets the most votes gets the prime minister, and that prime minister appoints the government. And the first time there was a woman member of government was in 1945, right after World War II. The numbers in parentheses are the number of women on the cabinet. So it started with 1, then there were 2. It jumped to between 2 and 3 in the 70s, early 70s. But the real change starts when you get to 1986, with 10 men to 8 women on the government. And that becomes the norm after that. If you look over on that slide over there, you see that in the last government, not the The present government also has 50-50. As a result of our project, the Fatah organization hired a full-time person to run the women's organization, centrally, and they built up a network all across their areas. On the right is the one who was in charge of the project that I worked with.
It helps the students get closer to the material. It gets relevant, real, breaks barriers so that it's not we vis-a-vis they, we are black, we are white, we are male, we are female. You can see my students from all over and they are all gaining a lot. So since I have a very short time, I will illustrate and in the end share a couple of testimonies. Because students do write about this and they talk about the transforming experience. Okay, and other professors on other campuses have adapted my poetry to their teaching. And you can be teaching physics, and chemistry, and biology, but this is a very humanizing element where we can move even cross-culturally. As I told you, women in my village taught me about medicine and conflict resolution and law and you name it. And this is a typical teaching strategy in the whole of Africa, where we use the arts to problem solve and to teach effectively.
My name is Trina Beasley. First off, I would like to start by saying that it is an honor to be part of this program. I'm proud to be part of alumni of Wichita State University. I have obtained a degree in sociology with emphasis in minority studies, and also a graduate degree in criminal justice. At the start of my journey on this campus, I would have never envisioned returning to the campus, standing alongside some of the great minds who were once my professors. That would be Ms. Davey and Dr. Okafor. These individuals assisted in the development of an already inquiring mind and guided me in the direction to help fulfill one of my childhood dreams, writing books. It was in many of these minority studies and women's studies classes that I was able to gain knowledge of alternative lifestyles that are rarely spoken of in mainstream America. Therefore, these classes, along with my imagination, assisted in the development of some of the characters in my books. I've written 2 books. One is entitled Madam Honey, which was my first book. The second book is entitled Mimi. I'm gonna go ahead and read a little bit out of Madam Honey. About people learning to get along with people. It just so happens that these women are prostitutes, but most of all they're women and they have to live in a world that doesn't accept them. And inside their own hub, their own world, they have to come. They have norms and hierarchies that they have to fall in and find their place. So basically, and in the end, they want what everybody else wants, to get away and find. So I'm going to read part of a chapter. About Heather, it's about Charity. Her real name is Heather Whitman. She had already gone 3 glasses of bourbon and was not in the mood for his retarded ass. She could not figure Marcus's family out. Why they allowed him to roam freely did not make sense to her. He was a full-blooded grown man, but acted more like a teenager. He was short, about 5 feet. He had a scary strength about him.
I have like 30 copies of it over there by the poster, and I printed those all out for you guys. I also have like a QR code on the poster, so you can go to my website and you can download it, print it off for yourself if you want to. But I'm hoping I don't leave with any copies, so please go ahead and take them. This book is about 20 pages long. I wrote it and drew it fairly quickly. I wanted it to be fairly intuitive. I wanted the drawing to be fairly gestural. And it sort of includes the before and after of the march. A couple days later, my sister was marching in Salt Lake City because they did a different date for the march. So those kinds of conversations, those moments, I wanted to have a way to document those. I feel like the comic is a good medium for a diary of sorts, where, especially when you have multiple panels on this page, you have a narrative that's being displayed, but you can see all of it all at the same time. I relate that a lot to memory and how memory works. In my research, as I'm doing these autobiographical comics in this form and also in handmade books, handmade prints, I am thinking a lot about memory and how it changes as it is reconsidered.
My name is Latoria Edward. I'm a student here at Wichita State. I'm a senior. My major is psychology. One of the fortunate things that I've got to do, put together an idea of a hype production. A hype production is basically an event planning to where we focus on what are some of the issues in our community that really need to be addressed. Some of the issues are our children. So I got with some friends, we sat at a table one night at Applebee's and we said, we're gonna do a hype production. Our first event is on Friday, which is tomorrow, where we're hosting a masquerade ball. And in this masquerade ball, we are able to bring people together and we are able to basically give them self-conscious images where it's beauty, love, elegance, harmony, justice, peace. And while we're doing this, we're still able to bring forefront some issues. Some of the issues that we're going to bring forefront is that there's a group here in Wichita that's a mentorship program for children after school, African American youth, from ages 13 to 18. They meet after school where they feed them. These children aren't running out of food. There are so many people here in Wichita that don't even know that there's a program that is running out of food for kids. And so we wanted to bring attention to that during the masquerade ball. We're raising money to give to these kids so that they can go on trips, that they can have an educational tutoring program after school.
I'd like to first commend all of the speakers in this section, and in particularly I would like to address Ms. Edwards. You said you've been here for a length of time, not dating myself, but I've been here 65 years. And I commend you because that has been a need that I have seen in the community. There are a lot of the individual entities would come together collaboratively.
Not necessarily in the Black community. It has been very well received because we all know we've all been waiting for it, to where we do come together and we do come together in a unified way in love. But unfortunately, sometimes we're always trying to compete. And so it's hard to come together when you want to compete. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you.
And we have a little bit more time in our session number 2, so we are going to draw your attention to some student artwork before we wrap up this session. I will hand this back to Jody.
Amanda. All right. We are going to take questions here in just a minute, but we are going to also have one of our student artists who was able to make it step in to explain some of the things we have over here for you to explore. Towards the end of the year, we have Tylesia, who will be talking in a moment about her artwork, so I'm going to leave that alone. But we also have some artwork from other students. Capri has been really focused on Sheila Booth.
Hi, like she said, I'm Alicia. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like all the way in the corner with the pretty collages and I have the big drawing on the table. So for me, when creating work, I started noticing that I didn't see myself, or I kept seeing the same thing over and over. So I wanted to try to be something different, try something new. And so as I was getting closer to this, I realized that I had some limitations and I was kind of being part of the problem. So I wanted to do different body types and try to make more representation for Black women. But as I looked at my stuff, I noticed that there were still some things that were limiting. So with the collaging, I still had a problem with the body types. I always ended up only being able to find not always a variety of bodies. And with drawing, I found that I could try to solve that by making different body types with different scars or skin irritations and elephants if you can see. Something that isn't always viewed as being very pretty, as you might say.
No bingo! You didn't get a bingo either. No soup for you. Trishelle! That's bingo. That's double bingo.
Double bingo.
Nathan is taking cake again.
She's always getting double bingo.
Of course, oh, we have 2 more minutes. Gotta hurry. Okay, Alana. 1, 2, 3. Triple bingo. He'll just go off, right? I'm happy that he gets
All right.
Okay, those who got drawn but didn't have bingo, this is your consolation prize, a bag. Jensen and Amanda get a bag.
Okay, our next session starts here in 2 minutes. It's going to be session 3.
Actually, no, it's better.
Let me make sure I say this.
Presentation is called Animated Stereotypes, Analyzing Gender in Cartoons.
My name is Kelly Kimball, and I'm a senior sociology major. This was a case study I did for Jody Simon's women's studies class last semester. The first thing, I will kind of go through the process that I went through to even get to this point. So we were assigned to do a case study, but there were multiple parts to it. The first thing we had to do was kind of pick a topic that we wanted to cover. So my general topic was gender roles in cartoons. And then going from there, we had to go through different literature and find things to support what we were wanting to talk about. So we went and reviewed the literature and then did 3 different abstracts for 3 different articles. And then from the abstracts, we ended up with a research question, which mine was, do stereotypical gender roles in cartoons have a negative impact on young girls? And we did our own research, which was the case study part, and then combined everything into this presentation.
My presentation is about King David of the Bible and how women influenced his rise to his throne, and then also how they in turn influenced his fall. Early on in David's story, we meet David is a warrior under King Saul, and King Saul is kind of trying to figure out a way to get rid of him because a lot of times he's one-upped him. David is a more victorious soldier, the people like him better, and so he's trying to eliminate David from his being so Saul can maintain his illusion of being the one, the best.
My name is Micah Fry. I am a graduate student in the Elliott School of Communications here at WSU. But at the time when I was in this women's studies course that birthed this case study, I was an undergrad. So shallow assumptions and stereotypical marketing. I conducted this case study on the imaging used in women's magazine advertisements. This is a simple pilot study. I will warn you, as an undergrad, I was very much less versed in research methods than I am now, and I'm quickly learning more as I'm in grad school. So this case study was rooted and inspired by my own personal experiences. That's what kind of drove it. So I took that inspiration and I named a problem that I saw in my life. As a woman in her early 20s, I was constantly bombarded by media and advertisements that were designed to play on my role as a woman. So they were based on stereotypes and shallow assumptions about who I was as a woman and how that defined me. This case study sought to analyze that trend. I formulated a research question, which is what images are being used to represent or to advertise to women in women's magazines. For my methodology, I chose 5 magazines. I wanted magazines that targeted women. That was their target audience, was women. And then I wanted also to select a wide range of ages.
So theoretically, these magazines could represent the magazines that a woman would read as she progressed from teenage all the way up through her years. I chose 5 magazines. Those were Ladies' Home Journal, Good Housekeeping, Better Homes and Gardens, People, and 17.
So a little bit of background before I get started. I usually watch a video game commentary group known as Funhouse. A video game commentary group, what they do is they play games for fun, and sometimes they review games, but basically what they're doing is just talking about games and things going on around the video game world besides just actually playing them, and provide humor, feedback, different things to the developers as well as the consumers. Funhouse is known mostly for their comedy, but they actually do a podcast called Dude Soup, which is where they discuss some of the social issues surrounding video games or just pop culture in general. This is as I said, it's very more. It's just kind of like I think about some of my previous research that I mentioned is that you become more tolerant to the violence against women and violence in general the more that you're socialized by it within video games, things like that. And so what I would think of in that situation is there's probably maybe some really, really bad apples, ones that they really want to say those bad things and they mean it, and then everyone else kind of going back to the bystander effect and mean world syndrome, that they're okay with letting it happen, watching it happen, because it's they're just used to it. They see it in video games all the time, and there's just kind of that mindset.
One of them is a liberal feminist. Liberals think that men and women are basically the same. There's just one minor difference in their genitals. Another group is the radical feminist.
The so-called minor difference is not so minor at all. Genitalia are huge and should be used to celebrate what makes women special.
Excuse me, I need to introduce another speaker. The Marxist socialist. She believes that the problem is money and capital.
I don't just believe it, I know it. Everybody knows it. The capitalist system is set up to exploit women and the poor.
I like this. Everybody has a different way of thinking about women's issues, and they think that their way is the best. But we all are together on the fact that we want to stop the oppression of women in patriarchal societies. Take the wominists, for example. Wominists don't even call themselves feminists. They believe in the same concepts and the same things that feminists believe in, but they've expanded themselves to include race and class.
Because women come in all races and colors.
Typical heteronormative behavior here. Let's just forget about the oppression that LGBT people face in their day-to-day lives.
Sorry, I didn't forget about you. It's just that we've included you in all of the other issues.
No, my issues are unique and I will be heard.
You go. You see, I like feminist vitality. Some people call them subversive, rebellious, interruptive, but I call them strong, energetic, and full of vitality and passion. You'll see this as they make their cases directly to you. Please, feminists, come, make your cases.